and I will welcome my friend August Rocco to Turf Tuesdays. You are not new to Tennessee. Might be a little new to the Tennessee turf industry in terms of being a name, but yeah, welcome to the show. Thanks for letting me come in here and bug you in the middle of this big construction project.
No, happy to be here. It's certainly been a journey to get to this point and excited to be 30 days officially today out from opening. So yeah, there's a lot going on out there as you saw, but yeah, happy to be here and talk a little bit about what we've been doing. We're excited to showcase it to the world. So I'm August Rocco. I grew up here in Franklin, Tennessee, went to Franklin High School. Um, from there, always was a big golfer. Decided that I wanted to get into the turf industry, and I'll never forget. And I tell this story that when I told my father that I wanted to be a golf course superintendent, he said, "Son, you don't need a degree to mow grass." And
I have a similar story.
and initially, it was a way to play some free golf. Started as a summer job up at Quaker Ridge and in New York, and just fell in love with the business and transferred from University of Alabama to then to Rutgers and finished my schooling up at Rutgers. So worked at Bayonne Golf Club for a couple of years up there as an intern while an assistant while I was in school, and then Sabonic Golf Club for a year after that, and then decided that tired of the northeastern winters and so among a few other things, and decided to come back down to the South and live down in Georgia for a decade. And worked at Peachtree Golf Club for a couple of years, Dunwoody Country Club, and then got my opportunity to become a superintendent at age 27 at Country Club of Columbus.
Okay.
Little 1909 Donald Ross Golf Course. Hosted the Southeastern Amateur every year, was the home of the Haskins Trophy, so very high golf IQ membership. And then there were rumblings of a new construction taking place between Columbus and Macon called the Fall Line, and kind of took a lateral move and went from being a head superintendent to the East Course superintendent at the Fall Line because I had not been really exposed to any construction.
Right.
I'd done some renovation work, but just wanted to learn about more of the infrastructure behind everything. And it was just such an eye-opening and rewarding experience. And fortunate that the East Course was Golf Digest's best new golf course of 2025. So finished that construction and grow in, and then heard the rumblings about Andrew Green's first new original here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. And having grown up in Franklin, it was just a dream come true to be able to come back and be a part of this, but also, for the family aspect of my parents, they still live in Franklin. So
Right.
my kids getting to know them more than once or twice a year, it's just been fantastic. So we started this project, broke ground December of 24. I started in January of 25. So been at it for a while now. And now that we're 30 days out from opening, just trying to tie together all the loose ends. But
We were talking about how the next 30 days might be more important than the previous 300.
it's what I told my staff. I keep telling them till I'm blue in the face that, every little thing we do now is under a microscope, and it's not there. It's not Disneyland without the without the lines for much longer. I mean, it's the people are coming, so we've got to refocus and train our staff that there are people that are actually going to play this golf course.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah, before we get into the Andrew Green part of it, because we talked a little bit out there while we were driving to routing today about some of the Andrew Green signatures, if you will, that are out here. Talk a little bit about, you just ripped off like a hitters only of golf clubs that you've worked at from your time in the Northeast town. I mean, are there some things like that, I think you said you started at Bayonne, is that right?
that was,
That
yeah.
like that you took from Bayonne that maybe you brought to Sabonic. I might have those order reversed, but
Mhm.
like think you started Quaker Ridge with Tom, so like stuff that you learned at Quaker that maybe you brought to Sabonic and something that you took from Sabonic to Bayonne. Like, what do you think some of the things kind of being in that Northeast ecosystem, because it's a very different ecosystem than here in the Southeast, that you took with you as you came back home?
Well, I was fortunate that I had the luxury of being able to bounce around without a wife and kids yet at that point, and I just wanted to be exposed to as many different grasses and as many different elite operations as I could, because I think it's just so important that you take bits and pieces from the agronomy, but also from the leadership and the culture. So you kind of cherry pick some of the things that you do want, and some of the things that you might not want. And that northeastern climate
It's different.
is
Short season and you know it.
it's I don't know that I even want to elaborate on it, but I'm back here for a reason. But it shaped who I am, and I think being exposed to turf grass management at the top 100 level first initially kind of shaped the way that I approach golf course maintenance. You're exposed, you have the resources to be able to, push turf to its limits. And seeing that from the get-go was, as a big golfer and a single digit handicap golfer, I mean, I was fascinated by it. So, yeah, I've taken bits and pieces from everybody along the way, whether positive or negative, and, tried to create my own culture and vision, and wouldn't be possible without having all of those stops. So,
I mean, the thing that like that I see, particularly with students that like might go up to that region or really any, top club on an internship experience as they're kind of cutting their teeth in their
mhm,
career, is you learn the eye for detail and
100%.
a real need to get, because at some level, I mean, it should be the basic agronomy is table stakes for having a golf course. And the separators are like how closely you can pay attention
Mhm.
to the very, very fine details. And I think some of the students that go through that really love it, particularly if you're one of, if you're more towards the golf sicko bent, you
Mhm.
really like that. And there's some who don't, right? And I think
Right.
it's important to figure that out early on that, maybe that level of detail isn't something that you value and you're not wanting to chase. And that's an important realization to make when you're young to kind of drive your path forward for whatever sector of the industry you might want to go down because there's a lot of options other than top 100 golf.
Yeah, and I kind of say the same thing to some of my guys here. It's, Firefly is not for everybody and everybody's not for Firefly, but just because of that level of detail and what the expectation is, inherently you're going to work a little harder to achieve certain conditions or certain detail points because we have the budget to be able to do that, and that's what the expectation is. So, you have to really make a conscious decision on which fork in the road you're going to take. Because like you said, there's so many different avenues to maintaining turf that, it's a certain echelon's not for everybody, and that's okay. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a million avenues in the business, but I've always just loved the idea of pushing turf to its limit and just seeing just how great you can get it, and having, not that we have unlimited resources, but we have a deep enough well that we can really push the boundaries on what's possible. And that to me is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I always think like the ability to try to optimize
Hmm.
is fun, right? And
Absolutely.
I can remember years ago, a good friend of mine, Rob Lingle, who many listening to this know well, he once told me when I started at Tennessee, I said, "What's your goal as a well-regarded superintendent in the state? Like, what are you trying to do? You've been at this club for a number of years, been very successful. Like, what's your goal?" And he told me, like, he said that he tried to identify one thing that they wanted to make better every single year. It was a
Hmm.
new thing every year. And you start like leveling up in individual areas year over year over year. Pretty soon you look back 5 years later and everything's better than it was 5 years
Hmm.
ago when you started. It's just been a really cool approach. And I can think of some individuals that maybe cut their teeth in let's call it top 100 golf that have segued into other parts of the industry. And that's been a pain point, right? Because if you go into a different sector where that's not the priority and you've just been trained to push that direction, kind of recalibration can be difficult.
Yeah, my first head superintendent job, again, that it was great, Donald Ross golf course, but a sub $1 million budget, and having come from places like Sabonic and,
Mhm.
Quaker Ridge and Bayonne and Peachtree, where you had a lot more resources. It also did so much for my career to be able to squeeze every penny out of every dollar and really maximizing, your workforce in particular. I mean, you just had to be very strategic about how things were getting done, but it pained me on the inside knowing just how much better we could make it with X
More,
amount of
yeah.
dollars and more resources. But it was great, an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything, because it taught me that you can't just throw money at every problem, and you got to get creative sometimes. So I've kind of done both,
Yeah.
and that was great for me.
So, you came here and this was a 750 acre open
Hmm.
field, right?
Yep.
Captain D's was the the name on the deed, if you will. You said it was given to his son, and then here we are, a number of years later. We're building a golf course.
Yeah, so this was Danner Farms, and Mr. Danner, Mr. Ray Danner, was Captain D. He owned Captain D's and Shoney's, and he gifted this parcel to his son when his son graduated high school. I think I joked with you. I got a pat on the back.
Yeah,
Go get him,
yeah,
kid. But I didn't get 750 acres. But this was his playground. I mean, he had a section of the property that was for deer hunting, and a section. He had a motocross trail out here. He had a helicopter hangar that he had
okay,
his helicopter in, and it was a big playground. I mean, there was some old buses that were out on the short course that had cannonballs that had been shot through them. There was a cannon. So it was just a big playground. Now it's just a different playground for,
right.
but yeah, so to see it transform obviously is such a rewarding thing, and the infrastructure. And this is a, a all-inclusive community almost. So just the infrastructure that has to go in, water, sewer, power throughout this property has just been really, really rewarding to see that process. But yeah, it's evolved quite a bit, and really excited to see it take shape.
So I asked you this out on the golf course. You think about different architects kind of have their signature. Like people talk about Corin Crenshaw, right? One of the signatures is the routing, right? I think I've either heard it said on one of the architecture podcasts or read it somewhere that Bill Cour's thing is like when he figures out a routing, he follows like the animal tracks, right?
Mhm.
Because they're going to take the most efficient way to traverse the property. And I've always thought that was
That
really
is.
cool. And I think David McClay kid's thing is he takes like a basketball and rolls that out to see how a ball will roll across the surface with different contouring in ground, right? This, to my knowledge, is the first Andrew Green
Mhm.
signature. He's done a lot of marquee renovation, restoration work that's been really well received at the
Mhm.
highest levels. What do you think Andrew's signature is, or is it too soon to tell?
Well, it's evident that when we got started early on, when we started putting some of the features together, the hummocks in general, and if you look at East Lake and some of the other work that he's done, I think a lot of that really high-end renovation work he's done, it's evident that he is inspired from Golden Age architecture, the Rosses, the Rayners, the McDonald's, that's when you look at Firefly, you see something that is reminiscent of the golden era of architecture with not many flash bunker faces, lots of hummocks and humps and bumps and kick points that he surface drains everything really well. And in a few years, I think it's going to look like a golf course that's been here for 100 years just because of
Okay.
the style of architecture. So he's certainly got his own twist on it. The subtleties of his greens complexes are amazing.
Yeah.
There's nothing goofy about them, but there's a lot of little subtle movements, and they're not over designed where you see a lot of architects now. Some of the stuff is big contours.
Showy for the sake of being showy.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's not what this is. It's very, very inspired by Golden Age architecture, which I love. I'm kind of a golf geek.
Yep. Same.
So
Same.
I love the Golden Age stuff. And
So I think you said 80 acres of Tahoma.
110 total acres of Tahoma, maybe 112, and 80 of it is shortcut Tahoma.
Okay. And then Eagle on Greens.
Yeah, about 5.25 acres of Tiff Eagle.
So what led to the grass selection of those two grasses for here?
So the owner has got several other properties. The developer, he's done Boot Ranch in Texas and Talisker Club in Utah, and he did the Grove down the road here. And they sand captain did Zoysia at the Grove, and he firm and fast is just the ultimate directive.
Right.
Well, it seems everywhere now with all these new builds popping up
Yep.
and conditioning. Our business is getting harder and harder with the technology. We're just pushing turf further to its limit, but he really wants firm and fast. So the selection of Tahoma was that we would get some more ball roll as opposed to Zoysia, where
Right.
so having done Zoysia down the road, he was excited to do Tahoma. And, we had some back and forth about whether we were going to do Bent or Bermuda and obviously Zoysia versus Tahoma, but really happy with what we landed on. So we got a mono stand essentially of Tahoma, and then rather than a tree lined golf course, you saw all the holes are divided by 90 acres of some fine fescue and summer ornamental mix, broom sedge, side oats,
that
blue
are
grama.
that are in progress.
Work in progress. Some better than others.
So, talk a little bit if you can about, we were discussing on the golf course that some of the benefits that it's all one cultivar,
Which
right?
is fantastic. And the thought process is not that we're ever going to host a a professional tournament out here, but we will. It's in the bylaws that we want to support amateur golf at the highest level. So the fact that we have one stand of grass out here, we're able to manipulate those mowing lines and tighten up fairways and grow up the rough. And if we wanted to do that a year we were hosting a tournament, obviously that we have one stand of grass, we're able to do that. So we're also able to, treat everything the same. You don't have to treat your rough differently. You can spray wall to wall, you can fertilize wall to wall and have a uniform application rather than having to separate.
And what's cool is like, I mean, to me, the work that we've done research wise with Tahoma, you have the cutting height flexibility to do that, where I don't think that's universal across all of the other hybrids that are out there right now.
Agreed. We've seen every time we've lowered the height on the Tahoma, we've just seen that it responds very well to it. So our effective height of cut on the fairways right now, I mean, we're mowing it just under half an inch at 450, but we took the Prism out there the other day and it's right around 300 effective height of cut with where our bed knives are set up on our fairway mowers at the moment. And it just, I mean, you saw it.
And that's LA Country Club style.
it's tight. So again, firm and fast is the
Yeah.
direction we have to go. So obviously we'll back off a little bit and as we enter the cooler months. But yeah, it's been nice to play with. But one thing I have noticed with this Tahoma is that the rough, at least we've initially sodded all of this right, and the rough has just taken a little bit longer to become a penalty. So
Do you find the ball kind of sits on top
mhm,
because of the density?
yes.
Yeah.
So well, that's something that we'll
Which at a members club, you probably have people that really like that. But like as you move towards elite amateur golf, that's going to be
mhm.
an area for growth, if you will.
And again, our developer and owner just is incredibly high golf IQ, good player, wants it to play difficult. He wants this to be a championship golf course. So, he wants there to be a penalty when you miss the fairways. Again, 80 acres of shortcut turf, and that includes the short course. But on the 18-hole golf course, it's 55, 60,
Yeah.
between 55, 60 acres of shortcut. And so the fairways are generous, and he wants there to be a penalty when you miss them. So,
Right. And then one of the things I noticed out there was, as a new build, there's a debate, I guess if you call it, that might be a strong word. Sand cap, no sand cap,
mhm,
right? And you made the choice here to not sand cap, but get pretty aggressive. It's not XGD, but it's a similar drainage concept
mhm.
in fairways. Can you kind of explain the thought process there as it relates to the playability that you are seeking?
So this was fascinating. And in the pre-con meetings, we talked about sand cap, not to sand cap or not to sand cap. And Andrew Green said something that was kind of quieted the whole room. And he said, August, when you walk on a dry beach, what do you think about that sand under your foot? And I thought about it and everybody was quiet. I said, well, it's pretty soft. He said, that's my point. And so at all of his projects now, he's replaced sand capping with 2-inch drain lines on 8-foot centers. So every 8 feet we have a drain line,
Mm.
and that's a sand channel drain line. So, and then I played with the owner the other day. We had half an inch of rain that stopped the moment we teed off in the morning, and balls were still bouncing in the fairway. So it's performed really well, and I think I've just been incredibly impressed with the results to this point.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, what a summer to have a test for a drainage system
No doubt.
from a rain standpoint. I mean, I know you've missed some of the rains that have come through Middle Tennessee that have hit some of our friends at other places, but yeah, a real wet year to evaluate the performance of that.
Yeah, and I actually had a superintendent tell me this long time ago, and it stuck with me. And at the time, I didn't appreciate it like I do now. But he told me, he said, the best time to get to know your golf course is when it's pouring rain.
Yeah.
Get out there and go see
Yep.
see where the water's going. And at the time, I thought that was like, oh, you're just trying to keep me here even when it's raining.
Yeah,
But
yeah, but no, I mean, there's
there's
a
so
lot of
much
wisdom in
truth in
that,
it. Yeah.
and particularly, I mean, not only on a new course, but even on an older one to
Mhm.
see collar dams and places where drainage
Mhm.
systems aren't uh, doing what they want. I mean, I would tell you, and I'll probably talk about this at the turf conference this year. One of the themes of my year making visits has been talking to individuals about, well, do you know where your outfalls are in greens? And do you know that they're functional?
Yeah.
And more often than not, the answer might be no to both,
To not
right?
even knowing where
To
they
not
are.
even know where they
Right.
are. And if you do know where they are, there's some issues. And
Hmm.
and I can think of places where I've been called in for a POA issue, a spray program not working. And it's really been linked to the fact that, oh, well, the outfall of the green is 6 inches below the water line of the pond that's right next to the green.
That's never going to work.
Like you can spray your blue in the face and that's not going to work. That to me has just been eye-opening. That is a theme for the year. And I think shining a light on that to help people maybe lean into explore that more in the future is going to
And
help a lot.
one great thing about being able to do something from scratch and having the resources to do it is working well with Andrew on identifying future pest problems or
Right.
water problems initially in construction. That's obviously you're not going to get it 100% correct, but seeing your infrastructure go in has just made me, 10 times the superintendent I was before because there was a time where I wouldn't have known where the outfall is and what it does as a
Right. You don't have to
superintendent.
unsolve the mystery, right?
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, I think that's fair. That's definitely fair.
so we kind of designed collaboratively together, which was so great that I had, input on his first design, but making it sustainable, not just for me, but for the next guy and, for the next 100 years of superintendents out here trying to solve problems before they arise. So
Yeah, no, that's great. And I've got some things I want to pick your brain on a little bit about like deeper down the agronomic rabbit hole. But knowing that a lot of folks who listen to this are extension folks, lawn care folks, don't work in golf. I think the maybe behind the curtain look of how a golf course gets built would be new to them and pretty informative.
mhm.
I think to the outsider looking in, well, you're the director of agronomy and Andrew's the architect and you guys build the golf course, but it's much more involved than that.
Oh yeah.
Can you speak to Andrew comes up with his design, you're tasked with the guy to make it go. Who are the other parties and what do they do? And what is the concert maybe that you have to be the conductor for look like?
I I've likened it to juggling flaming tennis balls on a daily basis. But
Pretty good. That's good.
um, there's several different contractors, and I was fortunate, and while it was challenging, but grown so much professionally, we essentially, as Firefly, were the general contractor for all of this. So we had Green Tea Golf, great reputable construction company that did most of the golf course construction. We had Leibold Irrigation do the irrigation install. We've got a separate contractor for cart path, and then obviously you saw all the development, the vertical structures that are going up, and so there's just been from tree clearing. I got to be the contact point for everything that happened on the golf course, and those are the flaming tennis balls I described. That
Right.
you have to make sure that you check in with each of those contractors while you're simultaneously building and developing and mentoring a golf maintenance staff, and
Right.
that's
That's a lot.
it is a lot to juggle, but it's an exciting challenge that I never thought I would get into this side of the business. I was always the courses I worked at before, they were well established and it was just championship conditions on a daily basis. And that's what I
Right.
knew and that's what I loved. But seeing this side of it and seeing it take shape from the ground up and being involved with the infrastructure conversations and working with different contractors is just has grown my confidence in this business and I just feel like even a renovation now would feel like a small project compared to
Sure.
building it from scratch. So
So with I think you said 3 or 4 different contract outfits. Are those choices you get to make to pick who the people are to do that work? Is that something that the architect makes? Is that something you guys kind of decide together? Is it a bid process to do that? Like, what does that look like?
so initially early on, there even before I was hired, those kind of pre-con conversations happened. Most of those decisions were made before I got here, from the relationship with either Andrew or our developer and companies that they've had in the past. And there was a bidding process with everything, but we kind of had a small circle of individuals that were placing bids and probably knew who we were going to go with before that decision was
Right.
made. But yeah, that obviously is critical, and most of the success or most of the decisions were made because of success at other projects that either Andrew or the developer have used in the past.
And like, I mean, do you have a sense for when those relationships are solidified? How deep does it go? Does it go into, okay, well, if you're here to do the irrigation system, it needs to start on this day, end on this day. We need to have this many people on site. Walk me a little bit down the rabbit hole of what that looks like.
So we every Thursday we had a construction meeting, and one of Andrew's associates, Bill Mahalski, would run the meetings, and that was getting myself and every contractor, head of every subcontractor in the same office building to talk about how we coexist and how we keep marching golf hole through golf hole. Because in a project like this, you can't just start on one and finish on 18. Construction doesn't make sense that way.
Yeah.
You have to start at the far end of the property and work your way
Yep.
back to the starting point. So, our green tee did the subgrade for the cart path, and then we had a separate cart path contractor. So it was so important that, okay, everybody communicated and you knew what you were doing from that Thursday to the next Thursday. And so those Thursday meetings were informative for everybody. We would spend an hour talking in, section by section, irrigation, green tea, and the earth movement and agronomy and cart path, whatever it was. And we would sit down and collectively come up with what was going to happen over the course of the next 7 days. And without communication, it doesn't work, because it's like the Wild West when you first get started.
And to have so many parties, I mean, I think about like if you're gonna have work done on your house, right? You have a contractor do that work. Obviously, there's an advanced planning component.
Mhm.
If now you're going to multiply that by 3 or 4 across 700 acres of land,
Mhm.
I would think that the advanced planning multiplies out even more. Like, what's the lead time on going, all right, I'm going to build a golf course I got to get all my contractor ducks in a row in order to do this.
So timelines are obviously incredibly important. Um, Not just to light a fire under the contractors or myself to get it finished, but I mean, realistic timelines are even more important. So everybody wants to build a golf course and, it open like that. And,
Right.
and the reality is that it just doesn't happen that way. So there were lofty timelines for this. There was, talk initially that we would be playing golf out here last fall, and that became very evident after the spring that we had that just wasn't realistic.
Yeah.
So fortunate we kind of got back together and decided that it's best for the Tahoma, for the Tiff Eagle. We need one more summer, and we opened this fall. So
Right.
it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it turned out to be we had some more time to get this place a little bit more mature and ready to open, rather than, I think everybody's, one of the biggest mistakes you can make when you're building or renovating is letting people back out there too early.
Mhm. I agree completely. It's hard to play catch up after the damage happens.
It is. So yeah, fortunate that again, the developer has a very high golf IQ. They're doing everything they can to help protect the turf this year. They're limiting guest play. It's going to be cart path only in the wintertime, and thanks to your studies there. So we're really going to put the golf course first here. Anytime we need to cover, we're going to have the bandwidth to do that. Covering 32 greens it's
Across 5 acres, that's a lot of coverage.
it's a lot of cover, especially when you talk about double covering. So we're always going to protect the golf course here, and it's the centerpiece of an amazing community. So excited to have that support from ownership, and that obviously makes my life a little bit easier.
Right. So you're 30 days out, and you and Jerry, of course, superintendent, have really had a challenge, let's call it, in managing grasses of different maturity. Because, like as you noted, you don't start on one and end on 18,
No.
and everything doesn't get planted on one single day. It's variable stages of planting and growing and whatnot. Right now, can you speak to the folks listening about just kind of the different growth stages that are out there, and how you're going to do your best to make everything as uniform as you can 30 days from now? But that's probably not possible,
No.
right? We're going to do our best, but
That's exactly what I told the owner. I'm going to do my best. So last year, because of the kind of start that we got off to with some historic rainfall numbers in the spring, and this place was just so muddy, we were behind on building the irrigation lake. Well, anyway, we got to a point where we only sprigged 13 greens last year. We sprigged 10 greens on July 28th, and then another three greens like on August 21st or something like that.
Okay.
So, 13 of the 32 greens were sprigged last year, and the wind continued sodding Tahoma all through the winter time, but did not get over to the short course or really even finish the 18. We were almost done with the 18-hole golf course into the winter, and we stopped sodding for about a month in January to February, and then picked back up in March. But and then sodded the whole short course, and then this May we sprigged the remaining 19 greens. So I've got five of the 18 on the big course that are a year in difference. And
Okay.
my equipment manager is, there's been times where he's just going nuts about how many times we're changing heights on these mowers because we've got 10 or 12 golf holes that are by all accounts ready and
Yeah.
at their finished product stage. And then you've got holes that were just sodded in May of this year that we're just still working down and using grow-in mowers and that. So yeah, it's like a dance that we do with changing heights all the time, but we're getting close now to everything being on the same height. It's just as you saw out there, it just takes the turf responds to it a little differently, but we're trying to simplify it because I'd say 2 months ago, we had to have a big whiteboard and it just listed every mower and it said, this is the height and these are what holes it's mowing.
Right.
And very easy to make a mistake. If those guys, Jerry and Jensen, they do a great job. And, making sure the right mowers go to the right place every day when you've got six different heights of cut and on the same kind of grass
That's a lot.
it's a challenge.
It's a lot.
There's no room for bad days. You have to be thinking about it every single day.
Yeah.
What mower goes where. So
Yeah. Well, and I think another thing too is we talked a little bit about with young grass when it comes to like what I do in the weed control world, like erring on the side of more cautious is probably better, right?
100%. Yep.
The only way you're going to get into trouble is to go too aggressive on young grass too soon. And, I know you guys did that last year, knowing the stresses that can come with young grass in the winter here and got through largely unscathed on the winter kill front. I know you spoke a little bit on the greens being variable depth, and there were some places in the variable depth construction on greens edges where they didn't get through winter the way you wanted. But by and large, big success. And now we're going to kind of lean towards on the herbicide selection piece on the POA program this fall, a little bit on the softer side, right, on young grass.
And the only pre-emergent that this Tahoma's had its entire life to this point, even back to the sod farms, obviously is Ronstar. So
Yeah.
Just to a point where I like we mentioned earlier, the only person that's kind of can stand in my way would be myself here. So just want to make sure that we do the right things to not step on our own foot and get through another successful winter. So we'll do Ronstar. We'll be a little more conservative and hopefully by next summer, end of next summer, as we go into next year's POA program, we feel that everything is established and rooted, and we can mix some chemistries to use some different groups of herbicides. And but by and large, the Ronstar's done pretty well. Crabgrass with all the rain that we've had this year.
Yep.
Ronstar's not going to do great on that.
Obviously not going out in dormancy and trying to carry deeper on into the summer. But there's ways to build off of that with softer chemistry for next spring too. And I mean, I think you're making the right move going that way. And I think it's a good lesson for anybody that's listening. If you are managing areas if you're managing a golf course and you do a bunch of resodding work this year, you should probably think about erring on the side of softer. Or if you're one who historically, maybe you come out of spring every year and you have truckloads of sod coming. Well, that's kind of Mother Nature telling you we need to make a change, right? And that the standard program might not be the best program for that microclimate on your golf course, and leaning into some softer chemistry might be best for the overall turf health. Sometimes I think for what we do, we equate 100% weed control with healthy turf, and I don't know that that's a 1-for-1 on every little microclimate that can be found across a property when you layer in traffic and tie-ins and water flow and all the things that come with golf course turf.
I could not agree more. I think it's so easy to exasperate winter injury with trying to make sure that you're 100% weed free. And we, as superintendents, can oftentimes, you see a weed and you're passionate about this business, it just burns you up, right?
Yep.
But the restraint sometimes that I've learned over the years to use some of those softer chemistries and not be so cavalier with some herbicides, I think ultimately as you move into the heart of the transition zone. And I told myself, I think probably in the mirror before I took this job, be careful with herbicides.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, that's for sure. I think Tom Ashfield probably gave you the fire in the belly for weeds.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. In fact, I remember one of my first days on the job, one of the assistants there told me, he said, "Don't ever let Tom see you not doing something. If you want to get on Tom's good side, carry a pocket knife, and when he drives by, just get on the ground and pluck a weed out."
It's funny. Yeah, we had a student go up and intern for Tom. This was several years ago now. He's now a superintendent out in the Midwest. And his first day, Tom drove him out to some tee and pulled him aside and like took him to go talk about something. And they walked by a dandelion. And Tom saw it, and the student didn't see it.
Oh boy.
And then turned around, and Tom takes the dandelion out of the ground and looks at him and goes, "If this doesn't bother you, you're in the wrong business."
I mean, that's what separates good from great. So, and again, having the restraint, obviously knowing what the expectations are, you do have to make decisions
Yeah,
sometimes that don't coincide with healthy turf. I mean, I equate it. A lot of what we do is like walking a tightrope. You're over fertilizing, you're over regulating, and
yeah,
you don't really, we're pushing greens to the absolute limit, mowing at a tenth of an inch, and a lot of what we do is counterproductive and not exactly conducive for healthy turf all the time.
right,
But finding that right balance, I
right.
think, is incredibly important.
So how do you, as we get closer to the hour here, like you have this challenge of you've got investors that put money into this place 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and they're jonesing to play golf, right?
Mhm.
They want to see it. You get out there and it looks like a really cool, fun golf course to play, and they're gonna want to see it be awesome. But the reality is, as we're talking about, you've got grass as a variable maturity, and any golf course on a new build isn't really what it's going to be for a few years. How do you communicate that to somebody who doesn't work in our business? That like what you show up out here today is just a starting point, it's not an end point.
Yeah, so fortunately, the 12 holes we did last year are pretty close and are kind of a model, so to
Mhm.
speak, for what we hope that the other golf holes look like next year, provided we can get a good native grass growing season this fall and then the next
Right,
spring. And that's really, but I think it's important for everybody, whether you're sports turf or, golf course management or what, constant communication, almost bordering over communication, I've found from
right,
it is just super important. Knowing what your expectations are and being able to communicate what the members can expect or what your clients expect, it puts everybody at ease. So I'm going to draft up and whether they'll read the entirety of it. I'll try not to bore them with the agronomics, but I just want to give everybody kind of a life cycle update on
mhm,
what hole is in what stage and what they can expect over the course of the next 12, 18, 24 months, because this course is going to change dramatically
for sure,
in 24 months. I
for
mean,
sure,
not just what's going in around it, but just the maturity of every stand of turf we have out here. I mean, it's like I said, if in a few years it's going to look like it's been here 100 years, and
right,
we're just not there yet. I mean, you're talking about stuff that was just sodded at the end of May. So just being clear and concise in your communication, and obviously playing golf has always helped me, being able to communicate not just agronomically what stages those holes are in, but how it affects their playability. That's
right,
that's how I found I've gotten people to actually read my material, is
right,
if you talk about how it plays and not
right.
just not just some of the boring science, right?
So the golf course opens in 30 days. What's the timeline for everything else? Vertical structures, the pro shop, the teaching area, all the other stuff. Because I mean, you ride the property and you can see the golf course and it's coming together really nicely. And there's a lot of construction out there that's non-golf course construction.
So vertical structures will probably, I don't even know that the clubhouse will be built for another 3 years, but what they've done here is taken a village concept. So rather than there being one big white elephant on top of the hill that's constantly a portion of it's being renovated, there's a separate pickleball facility. Um, there's a family club. There's a kids club with the bowling alley. There's the fitness center's its own room. The men's locker room's its own building. So, which is very forward thinking in the sense that when it is time to start renovating some of those facilities, that they can just focus on one building at a time. But the timeline for all of those is probably another 5 years.
Okay.
And within 5 years, you see all the amenities built and that's when dues will and dues will kind of increase as each new amenity building comes online.
It's
So
logical.
I think obviously that will want to accelerate the developer's timeline for wanting them to be up and dues are full. So I would say 5 years, all the amenity buildings are built completely. And at that, there's obviously with each amenity building, there's an elaborate landscape around each of it. So I'll have a grounds team of, a golf team of 35 and a grounds team of probably 15. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a large operation. We'll maintain all the common areas within the community too. We're gonna have a horse pasture. I told you I'm gonna grow apples. I don't know anything about growing apples, so that's
Good
gonna,
luck.
yeah.
Neither do I.
So, and then all the homes, there's 407 home sites that I think the first one will break ground probably Q2 of next year and finished a year after that, the first set of homes anyway. So in some form or fashion, FireFly will be under construction for about a decade. And I think
Okay.
after about 10 years, it's reached its final vision. So obviously, I'm not going to get bored anytime soon. I'm
You're gonna
building a
be busy
ground.
for a while.
Yeah. And it's been neat again to sit in on a lot of the development infrastructure meetings and stuff that I never thought back when I was pulling weeds to make sure Tom Ashfield wasn't disappointed to learning about the
Yeah.
infrastructure of what makes a golf course community run. And it's been fascinating.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And before I have one last question I've asked every guest this year that I'll be sure to ask you, but I'd be remiss if I didn't shine a light on the autonomous mower
Hmm.
stuff that you're involved in. I know that, I talked about themes for me and visits this year, and that drainage outfall one is one, and the other is it seems like we've kind of gone past the early adopter phase for new tech, and we're now kind of more into the meteor part of the curve where
Hmm.
the cohort of people they don't want to be early adopters, but they also don't want to be late to the party are showing an interest. That feels like where we are, is just
Hmm.
starting to enter that door. You're going to be involved in this autonomous mower thing. I know we had a demo here that the marketing people probably loved,
Hmm.
Firefly at Firefly.
Right. Some things right itself.
Can you speak a little bit to like how that went, what your vision is for how you use the tech? I mean, I don't know that it'll be a labor savings as much as a labor allocation. It's what I've kind of seen. It helps reallocate some labor to different things, but
No, that's
what
exactly right.
will it be for you guys?
Well, it was, I knew it was coming when the developer asked me this year. I wasn't going to go down to Orlando. We were so, busy with what was going on here. And he said, I want you to go to the show and I want you to look at some autonomous mowers. And that kind of was the only cue that I needed about what direction we
We're
were
getting
headed here.
autonomous mowers.
Yeah. So we've done some research and obviously Firefly at Firefly, there's a ring to that. And, the real estate agents here, they've coined the idea now that they want to paint it and name it, and eventually it'll have each mower will have a name and it'll be marketed in that way.
That's
But
cool.
at the end of the day, we've got the perfect proving ground. I've got a 20-acre short course that about 15 of those acres are shortcut turf. The majority of it is shortcut turf. There's some native and there's a little bit of rough the slopes we can't
Right.
get, but it's a perfect chance to try out this technology. And I've told myself I've come from an eclectic bunch of mentors, and most of them are probably on the older school side of things. And I tend to kind of have those philosophies, but I've told myself that if I don't embrace this technology it's becoming such a data-driven business. I mean, everything is so quantifiable now that from the GS3 golf ball to your weighing clippings, it's not your grandfather's superintendent business
Right.
anymore. So
Right.
making technology work for us and quantifying data in the right way, but not eliminating labor because
Yeah.
this is a way to get to the details that normally we wouldn't have time to. So
Yeah.
we take somebody off of that seat and we're going to use our short course as kind of a breeding ground, training ground for young professionals, assistant and training guys that are just finishing college that can manage an autonomous mower out there, but also direct the guys that are, while he's cutting the cups and managing the autonomous mower and also directing the staff around the short course. So we're going to use that as a training ground for assistants, but also a training ground for guys before it's kind of a tryout to
Yep.
see if you make it onto the 18-hole golf course. So
That's awesome.
it,
What a great opportunity for a
mhm.
young person to not only get about, cut your teeth on a short course to kind of learn nuts and bolts at scale, but then to be able to work with new tech and be on the
Mhm.
forefront of that, that's really awesome.
So, and I'm right there with you. You never want to be the first guy that dives
Yep.
into it,
Not a really adopter.
but you cannot be the last either.
Yep.
So I think it's unavoidable at this point. I think it is the future. After having seen the technology in person, I was very impressed with it, and surely, yeah, naturally, there's going to be some new challenges associated with it. But I mean, I just think what you can do with it is the potential is endless. So. And as soon as they come out with a triplex, I'll be getting one for the tees because I don't care what golf
Yep.
course you work at. Keeping a square tee is a difficult thing. So
Robot's gonna do it better.
I'll happily let the robot take that
Yeah,
job away.
understood. Understood. Let me, well, before I forget here, the folks that want their GCSA credit, let me bring up on my screen. So for those of you that want your GCSAA certification, this is your approval code. You'll note this is today's date, August 4th. Your event approval code is right here. I will save you the trouble of me reading this aloud. Uh, but that is what you will enter into the GCSA website in order to get your CEUs. As a reminder, this has nothing to do with pesticide credits. Inevitably, we'll do these sessions. I'll show this code. Somebody may want to know the code so they can make sure that they get pesticide certified. This has nothing to do with that. This is simply for GCSAA continuing education units for our superintendent friends who are listening. If for some reason you do not get this number, you missed it, you didn't write it down, you're out in the field doing something and you're listening to this on your phone with AirPods in, you can email me and I will send you this code so you can enter it on the GCSAA website. They make it real easy to share. So the final question I have for you, August, and I appreciate all the time, obviously, with everything going on out there, it's busy, but this has been a fun question to ask everybody that's come on this year. So it originates from when students go through to get a PhD, they have to do written comprehensive and oral comprehensive exams. And at some level, it's academic hazing, right?
Yeah.
It allows folks like me and others who are on their committees to ask them questions about anything you want to ask them. And they can be real specific questions or they can be very open-ended. Well, one of the questions that I ask students, and I think I'm going to switch it a little bit just for the audience because I think it's more relevant to this conversation. The root of the question is about change over time, right? And I'll ask the students, what do you think the most important piece of turfgrass research has been since 1970, right? So a 50 plus year of time, what's the biggest piece of research, the most impactful thing that's been discovered in research that has helped the discipline move forward? But for the sake of this conversation, let's make it specific to golf, right? So if you go 1975 forward, if you had to pick one, there's a multitude of changes, right? What's been the biggest change in
I mean, I
the way
think
things
it's got
come?
to be technology for the mowers that we have. That's the different data collection tools and resources that we have now. I mean, we're just able to take things a step further than the previous generation, faster green speeds because we have advanced equipment. I mean, the reels are better, the grinders are better, the machines just perform better.
Right.
The technology has changed so much. And even from when I got into the business 16 years ago, it's just leaps and bounds. I mean, every year it feels like there's something that's coming out that's improving the way that we can maintain golf courses. So I would say, but obviously expectations of conditions have increased because of that
Sure.
technology and the courses that everybody watches on TV every week where they have 50 plus volunteers. I mean, golf now is booming more than maybe I ever thought that it would in my
Right.
career. I mean, seeing all these new constructions and um, just different high level golf courses popping up. Um, and just what the expectations are based upon the tools and resources that we have available to us now. So I think my easy answer would be just seeing how technology has changed.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, whether it's mowers or the ability to manage moisture with
Hmm.
TDR probes, I mean, I joke we mowing fairways. In fact, if I had to cut at 300, I
Yeah.
don't think they were mowing fairways
No,
at 300 in 1975.
no.
Yeah, I wasn't around then, but I mean, I'm willing to wager a bet that that was not the case.
We're talking about a FireFly autonomous mower mowing the short course now. I mean, just
Yeah.
the different technologies. And you can actually, what we're going to do is you can put the Turfrad sensors on that fairway mower. And so as that mower is mowing your fairway, it can map out exactly where your moisture levels are at too,
Wow.
and make auto adjustments into your irrigation system. I mean, who would have thought, 30 years ago that would sound like you were crazy if you said you could do something like that.
30
So
years ago, in and out heads, like, whoa,
yeah, exactly.
that's
Yeah.
wild. But no, that's a great answer. And I wish you the best of luck with opening. I know right now with a 30-day clock running, every minute's important. So we'll leave it here. I can't wait to come back and visit once things are up and going and in full tilt on the golf course front. Maybe we'll chase the Titleist around out there together one
No,
day.
look forward to it. Yeah, this is, like I said, these next 30 days are super important. And like I told my owner, we're going to do our best to put our best foot forward for opening, but we're really excited. We've been hard at work. A lot of people have put a lot of time and effort into it. And that's the beauty of a project like this is it's almost a fraternity of
Right,
guys that have, put some blood, sweat, and tears into building something special. So look
right.
forward to it, showcasing it
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
world.
it'd be great. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you all for listening. Be back next month, another on-site Turf Tuesday. I'll be on site at Lookout Mountain Club with Eric there to talk about uh, what he's done as their director of agronomy and the changes he's made since joining there I guess just about a year ago. I think he's about a year into his stint. Eric is at Lookout. So until September, we will talk to you later. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.